Hello and welcome to another album analysis. In today's video we're taking a look at the 5th studio release from the American metalcore band Beartooth titled The Surface. This latest album is certainly going to show a bit of variation from the band. Their previous 4 releases from Disgusting in 2014 all the way to Below in 2021 were very focused on Caleb Shomo's battle with depression and things like that. We really saw the aggression, the negativity very heavily coming through because he was using the music as a cathartic release to really display his emotions. However, with The Surface and the singles that we have been hearing over the past number of months, we've really seen him changing his mentality to something more positive, and that has slightly been impacting the music that the band have been working on and releasing in the lead up to the release of this 5th studio album. So will this latest release break free from its mental cage or simply struggle to scratch the surface? Let's take a look at it track by track. Opening the track, we do have The Surface, which roars in with these aggressive vocals, the pounding drums and chugging guitars that we very much expect to see from Beartooth. It is their bread and butter, but this is definitely a song that feels like them drawing a line in the sand between their previous 4 albums, and this one felt like a kick to the chest. Finally woke up again, really seeing the point where Caleb has woken up and realised that it's time for a change, trying to make himself a better person, and this album is really going to highlight that, but he has to draw that point in the sand where he can look back at his previous 4 albums and really highlight to the listener that this is going to be very different. We still do get some upbeat choruses, and that's one thing that Caleb has been a masterclass at performing, is some of these catchy choruses, and this album is going to be chock full of it as well. But it's really just highlighting his new mindset, complicated all the basics, forgot how to breathe, a way to let you see under the surface now. So he's finally found that way to let people in, to let that help in and see the person he was becoming and really show how he's going to impact and change that going forward. But despite that, we do still get some of the typical Beartooth breakdowns and things like that, so it really incorporates a lot of the typical elements that you would expect to see on previous albums and does serve as the perfect opener for what is going to follow. Then moving into track 2, we do have Riptide, the track that really set things off and really showed us this first change of mentality when it was released a good while ago. And it's a song that was inspired by him giving up alcohol. Caleb, he was quite reliant on it, and it was really kind of pulling him under and really making him feel much more negative. So he really wanted to make this song about that. Riptide is a very strong, unpredictable current. So it was almost pulling him along, pulling him under and causing him to drown, which is what he feels like he's been doing over the past 4 previous albums. And now he's breaking that surface tension like a dolphin leaping out of the sea and really trying to kind of aim himself upwards. But again, this is another song that still shows many of the twisting breakdowns and things like that. Again, the guitars really come in, the thick drums as well. So this is another song that really does incorporate many of the elements that we do typically see on Beartooth, and up to now they're not going to be showing too much variation apart from a change in the lyrical style. Moving into track 3, we do have Doubt Me, with this very interesting gradual build starting off, just adding layers after layers as the instruments do gradually come in before it bursts into this larger than life chorus. And we're still going to see plenty of anthemics coming in from the band. It's something they've often incorporated into their choruses especially, and the expletives to add into the aggression on this is another great little thing that they do to really just show this almost FU to everybody that has doubted Caleb and his journey, whether it be people such as fans, family, friends, anybody whatsoever. This song is just a massive middle finger to the people that doubted him, and that really comes across quite heavily. And again, they continue to mix in this more melodic with this more heavy aggressive style, keeping in the almost shouted screamed vocals, but really adds to this aggressive tone and style that the band have built their foundations on, but really just kind of including again these chugging guitars, these soaring ability to actually get everybody involved, and really have these more anthemic style choruses that do come across very strongly in this track. Then we move into track 4, which is probably the biggest twist on this album in the form of the Better Me, a collaboration with Hardy. It's not something Beartooth have ever really done before. They've been on collaborations, but they've never collaborated themselves, and it's really interesting how it blends in with this country style. It's certainly a very jarring mix for long-time Beartooth fans, but it does have this very springy riff and more of a radio rock friendly styling to it, and it focuses on bettering oneself, so we can really see the positivity that's really coming through from Caleb, and that tonal shift is really helping to show that. They couldn't just write another album like Below and have those upbeat lyrics because it just wouldn't work. They have had to make some musical choices to really show this change in mindset and the type of music that Caleb wants to produce. And it's great to see the band try some experimentation. I really do enjoy the vocal tones and the disparity between the two. That actually works quite well for the harmonies in this track between Hardy and Caleb. I don't think it's quite grown into a lot of people though. For me included, it's still one of those songs that I hear. I don't think of it as one of the standouts on the album, but I certainly think it's helped in setting the foundations for if they want to branch out into other types of music, other genres, and really do something more along the lines of collaborations in the future. Then for track 5 we do have Might Love Myself, as we do delve into a little bit of popcore, and this is the song that most heavily radiates the positivity on this album. It's got those more anthemic moments in it, really these oohs and these woos that really brought in by Caleb to really show this positivity that he's showing. In the music video he's smiling away, and it's not something we're used to seeing, but it was great to see that shift. And we also get the twinkling guitars in the back of the mix, which I think are really great use to really just show this more positive starstruck atmosphere that he's trying to convey, the fact that he's never felt quite like this before. And I also love some of the lyrics we do get in the chorus. Chemistry is changing, emotions rearranging, really showing this change that he is going through, but really doing it in a very clever way with the lyrics. The fact that his emotions are shifting from one side to the other, his chemistry, the way his body works, and the endorphins in his brain and the dopamine and things like that are really impacting his ability to see slightly clearer. But we still get some aggression brought into the bridge despite the popcore soundings that we have got. So whilst it may feel more radio friendly almost, we still get that little sprinkling of typical Beartooth thrown into the bridge with this more aggression coming in, and again these more soaring vocals, again making use of a very common element they do love to include in their music. For track 6 we do have Sunshine, which brings an end to our trilogy of certainly very interesting tracks. It's a sing-along blast that is definitely like a roller coaster. We have constant tempo changes from the acoustics into something much more aggressive. It really ebbs and flows quite heavily on this track, and it talks about the spirit that Caleb lost, the years that it cost, because it has been a number of years that he's been dwelling in this depression since around 2014 when they did release Disgusting, and even before that with the EPs they were releasing as well. So it's great to see that he's really touching on that, the fact that he's starting to see this sunshine. We still get these beefy breakdowns as well, and we also get this really interesting hollowed vocal as well. It's almost like Caleb is stuck in a hole. It's that kind of the hole that he's trying to escape from or trying to reach the surface of. So I do like that great little use of just simple little effects like that, again just showing a little bit of something different rather than just constantly driving in with their same kind of sounds that they have shown on previous albums. So again showing a bit of variation, making great use of the acoustic guitars, and it's again just got that strong ability to really sing along to it despite having these constant tempo changes. But it certainly is a song that very much keeps you on your toes. Then for track 7 we'd move into What's Killing You, the first of many songs that weren't released as singles from this album. We move back into these heavy, aggressive lyrics, these winding riffs in the intro, and constantly see this ebb and flow between the melody and the screams, including these anthemic chants. And one thing I really enjoyed about this track is the fact that it shows two different perspectives. It shows one perspective of this person that's struggling to deal with mental health or any kind of issues, and you've also got the other side of this person that's watching it happen. It could be a loved one. I know Caleb's talked quite heavily in live performances about how his wife has been able to help turn him around and has been the rock in his life, so her having to watch him go through these difficult phases, sticking with him and just really talking about how he doesn't know how to feel, there's nothing I can do. And it could be from both perspectives. It's great because both people in that situation don't know how to feel, they don't know what they can do most of the time. So I really love this ebb and flow between the two styles and the way that Caleb adjusts his vocal slightly so you understand exactly which perspective he is talking from. The only way they maybe could have improved this is it could have been a great opportunity to include another collaboration, maybe bring on a female vocalist or just have somebody else to really show that ebb and flow. But I still think they've managed to capture it in a great way just by making slight change into the vocals that Caleb does deliver to really show this change and really pull the song together. In at track 8, we do move into something I was certainly not expecting to see on this album. Look the Other Way, which is a ballad. It's got this acoustic guitar and piano. I'm just picking up the pieces. Please just look the other way. And I think this is a great track because it touches quite heavily on how he's felt like that he's had to associate with fans by producing this depressing music, and it's actually what's contributed to his inability to actually escape that. So this cathartic release that he's been using in his music has been great for connecting with fans, and people have loved him because of the music he's produced, but it's also been affecting him mentally and stopping him from moving himself upwards. So I like how it's a song that reflects on that, but again, almost following on from What's Killing You, it's almost that idea of that loved one being able to look the other way, look past the kind of self-destructive person that you can be. I wake you up and I tell you I'm losing control, I'm barely surviving, but I need you to know. So it's quite a strong song because it touches on this idea that if you're struggling with depression, sometimes the best thing to do can be to reach out to somebody. So you can really see how Caleb, through this journey over these albums, has got to this point where he's realised what's worked for him, and he's now trying to spread that with other people, to explain that to them. And anyone that's been suffering from mental health and has been on this journey will certainly appreciate this way that he's actually showing these releases, these ways that you can gradually fix yourself no matter how big the hole may be. We've also got other lyrics such as, when I don't even love myself, you love me anyway. So again, this idea of fans sticking with the band even though they may not like the change on this album compared to previous. Some will stick with it because they understand his journey. Loved ones may stick with him because it's the best thing they can do in supporting him and helping him gradually achieve that catharsis that he needs. Next up, we do have What Are You Waiting For? A rock-ready jam with a very quick pace, very anthemic chorus as most of this album has included, and it's another song that really talks about reaching out to others to make a change, asking people what are you waiting for to make this change. So again, really reaching out to people through this album, and it's great to see him taking that perspective and just linking up with fans, with listeners and things like that, and trying to get them to change their mind. Your head, does it spin? Do you want to start over again? So lots of questions that are being included in this track to really show that ability to reach out. And I think it's great how it's following on from Look the Other Way, having that acoustic break before we do head into the final almost third of the album, and the songs really fit hand in hand with what they're trying to achieve. We also do get a very interesting little flair from the guitar solo that is included as well. Entering double digits, we do have My New Reality, which talks about Caleb's new lease on life, makes use of electronic elements, brings something a little bit different in, turned into the person I was born to be. So you can see that change. He's now becoming this person that he was meant to be originally, that he's not been able to for previous years. And it does have this softer intro before moving into these quick pitted guitars, and talks about looking out to the future. So we've gone through the catharsis of the album, and now we're getting to that point where we're touching on what's to come in the future, what's to look ahead to. However, I did feel this was probably the least impactful of the tracks on this album. This was easily the most forgettable for me. As much as the other tracks maybe weren't quite as strong, certainly some of those previously, it wasn't quite that song that just made me think, oh, I want to listen to that again. I heard it once, I was like, okay, let's move on to the next track, rather than being this anthemic powerhouse that I'm used to hearing from the band that really just catches my ear. Then rounding out the album, we do have I Was Alive, with its very much radio rock influence, I do feel, but it is a song that focuses very heavily on self-reflection. It does have much more of a somber tone with its soaring chorus and its slow build, also the return of the acoustic guitars, but I think it's the perfect closer because it's touching on the past almost, that reflection over those previous 4 albums, and almost again looking out to the future, to the point where Caleb is now alive. He can go and continue doing what he wants to do best, and that may signal the next chapter for the band. So this may be the close of one chapter, setting it up for whatever comes next for the band as they continue to trend upwards in terms of their mentality, or certainly for Caleb. So I kind of like the way they've chosen to close on this particular track. I think the track listing has been very, very well set out, and they haven't really kind of jumbled everything up. I think everything is slotted into place quite nicely with the almost hand-in-hand styles of some of the tracks. So overall, this is definitely a very well structured album in the terms of its layout, in terms of what it wants to convey, in really showing Caleb's change in mindset. And I know that the musical choices are certainly a little bit different for a lot of long-time Beartooth fans that love that pure metalcore sound. They're maybe going to be a bit disappointed, but one thing you've got to remember is that this entire journey of Beartooth was inspired by Caleb's battles with depression, and these albums were his cathartic release, and he's had a change in mindset. He wants to show show people his journey and show that you can escape this hole of depression. And this album, for anyone that's struggled or gone along with the band, certainly can use this as a way to kind of look for that influence to change, to better themselves. And I do like the way that they've done that. They've stuck with exactly what they do best in the form of making it about Caleb. He's making the music that speaks to him and his journey. So yes, it's going to be quite weird. It's quite a jarring mix, some of the tracks, such as the collaboration with Hardy, and I don't think some of the songs are quite as strong as what we have seen on previous albums, but I certainly do think it's great to see them sticking to their guns. Really, Caleb just having the, this is my music, this is what I'm producing. If you don't like it, you don't have to listen to it, but it's exactly how I'm feeling and my musical cathartic release. So I really do like that they've done that, and I do think it has got a lot of strong positives in the way they've kept in many of the typical Beartooth elements, the chugging guitars, these anthemic soaring choruses, these very thick drums come in constantly to build this aggressive sound. But I like how they've intertwined it with something that's a little bit different, from the country influences to the popcore sounds and the radio friendly vibes that we do get from some of the other tracks. So overall, I'm going to give this album a 7.5 out of 10. I love some of these music elements they've included. I love this change in mindset, but I admit it's not quite as strong, I feel, as some of those previous releases. And I'm still getting to grips with some of these songs that they've included, such as The Better Me with Hardy. Whilst it's not a bad track, it's not one that's grabbed me instantly like many of the tracks on the previous albums have. And songs such as My New Reality, I just don't feel quite have that same strength that we have seen previously. But I do love the way that Caleb is reflecting his journey, trying to reach out to others, improve their mental health, and really show that anybody can go through that battle, and keeping in some of those core Beartooth elements so that it's not a complete 180 away from their typical sound. So that will be everything for today's video, but as always, feel free to let me know your thoughts about this album in the comments section below. How do you feel it lives up to some of their previous releases? Are you completely against this change in mindset, this change in style, or do you quite like that they're continuing to develop and be influenced by Caleb's mental health? I would love to know your thoughts. Also, if you'd like to see more content like this, then please do feel free to subscribe, and I will see you in the next album analysis.